Constitutional scholar John Eastman starts to spell out the way that the Supreme Court should take on the Alvin Bragg case against Trump and his potential being sent to prison. You're going to see the Republican Party articulate this more and more over time. But John Eastman, I've been following his career for 26 years. Okay. He's brilliant. He's good. We've been in email contact before. He's one of the 18 co-defendants of Trump under Fani Willis, right? And he's been stripped of his law. You know, they're going after him every which way he can. But he knows he's argued before the Supreme Court. Very few people can actually say that. So John Eastman, listen up. He's going to unpack the importance and how this gets thrown up to the Supreme Court using fancy words. Welcome to Doug in Exile. Let's learn something together.
The rule of law has sustained this country for over 2 centuries, and we are at grave risk of losing it. And then people taking matters into their own hands. I think.
Okay, that's what's at stake, losing the rule of law and people starting to take things into their own hands. That is civilization over.
I urge Trump's legal team to file a writ of habeas corpus, original writ, with the Supreme Court of the United States. It's a rare move.
He is one of the advisors of Trump, the legal team. He talks to the legal team. They just chat. Writ of habeas corpus to the Supreme Court. That is, jump the appeals in New York, which many other people are saying you should go to the appeals court in Manhattan until they see that it's 5 black female judges and they go, you know what? Let's just go straight to the Supreme Court. File a writ of habeas corpus with the Supreme Court. A rare move. Why would the Supreme Court take it, though? Here's his explanation.
But I think it needs to be done given these extraordinary circumstances before people start seeking remedies on their own.
And do you think that the Supreme Court will honor that and hear the petition?
They have to see what the rest of us have seen about how dangerous the left's lawfare has now become.
So go watch the last video I posted on the backfire with Jack Smith, that the Supreme Court with Amy Coney Barrett is watching what happened, right? They're watching Trump being prosecuted using politics. And so they're aware this is happening right now. And that's going to end up backfiring on the Democrats because it's going to animate the Supreme Court to act. An emergency action has happened. Trump's been found guilty of a felony. They're going to throw him in prison. The Supreme Court is going to have to act.
I've been looking at the motions in limine in the case. I look forward to having the public release of the 55 pages of jury instructions so we can parse that and see what the judge actually directed.
Okay, do you guys believe that Judge Juan Merchan's 55 pages of instructions to the jury are going to be released to the public? Because I'd love to see that. I'd love to do a show on that. It'll really go to show his bias and his instructions. It's important to go to the public. But anyways, that will be part of the evidence given to the Supreme Court.
I see news accounts that he directed they didn't need to agree on what the crime was. If they all just thought he should be found guilty of something, that was sufficient. Well, that doesn't meet due process by a long shot.
And so the Supreme Court's going to see it doesn't meet due process. I've already done a video on Judge Engeron saying that juries are overturned all the time. They're wrong about things all the time. So forget the jury system. The Supreme Court has to look at this because you don't have a rule of law if they don't look at it. And if they approve it, it's different. If Clarence Thomas looks at this and says, you know, what happened to Trump in New York, I disagree with it, but it's legal. It's the way the Constitution imagined our legal system to go. I would have a lot more confidence if I heard that from him.
In the motions in limine, one of the issues that he allowed the prosecution to put in was that Michael Cohen had pled guilty to a federal campaign finance violation, even though there really is no federal campaign finance violation here. But the court refused to let Trump's team put in evidence, an expert opinion by a former head of the Federal Election Commission that there is no such violation here. That seems rather significant and relevant to the case.
Yeah, this is, I mean, the gross negligence on Juan Merchan's saying negligence is being kind to him, because it's nearly a conspiracy on what he did, who he allowed to speak, and who he constrained from speaking is telling.
He let one side, lead the jury to believe there were violations, and the other side that could blow a hole through that not be allowed to testify. This trial was full of such contradictions and violations of due process that one hopes the Supreme Court will understand and take it up and understand the risk of not taking it up.
Okay, so why not go to the appeals court in Manhattan and jump over them and go to the Supreme Court? Because he's saying, what's at risk if it doesn't happen? Is the Supreme Court aware of that? John Eastman says, yes, they're aware of it, of what's at risk. What's at risk? The end of American rule of law.
To let this play out with the leading candidate for president, who looks like he's guaranteed to win right now, being sent to jail, sent to prison during the height of the election season. I mean, if they don't see the danger that poses to our republic, then God help them and God help us. But I think they will see it.
He says he thinks they will see it. I believe they already have seen it. Chat, do you believe they see it? Is the Supreme Court paying attention to what Alvin Bragg and Juan Merchan are doing to Trump, finding him guilty of 34 counts? And it's right that John Eastman said it's Juan Merchan who directed the jury. He controlled the jury, constrained evidence. Remember, they were sequestered, so they don't get to go and watch TV like the rest of us. They're actually less informed than we are, people who watch this show, of counter evidence, of counter arguments. Is that fair? The Supreme Court's going to go, that's a madhouse. No, this is not what the rule of law, this is not what law intended. And we are the ultimate authority of the law in the United States of America. So John Eastman saying that Team Trump needs to go straight to the Supreme Court. I agree, given the timing of all these things.
And if this stuff is not fixed right now, and this genie not put back in that bottle, or that Pandora's box lid closed back up, we may never get another chance again to have fair and free elections, and therefore to have a government based on the consent of the governed. I mean, all of the marbles are at play right now. And if we don't get people willing to stand up, as I know you have been, and many of your guests have been, then we're going to lose something that we inherited from our forebears that was more precious than almost anything else. That's freedom and the ability to criticize and speak out against our government when they're acting unjustly. We're at risk of losing that, and what we will pass on to our kids and grandkids won't bear any resemblance to the country that we inherited.
Will 5 of the 9 Supreme Court justices agree to take up this case? That's the only question there is. Do they see it? Will they do something about it? Because we're about to lose freedom. I think they do take it. They don't want to take it. They shouldn't want to. It's a totally different branch of government. They should not be weighing in on states' issues, on states' courts' issues, and all this stuff. But in this case, it overreached into an election of a president, and they have to take it. I believe they have to take it. If they understand the stakes, they will take it. That's my prediction. What do you guys think? I'm Doug in Exile.